Join me this week as we put the windows, the door, and some of the baseboard molding into our beachside bungalow. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this is to do. All right, before we can install our doors and windows, we have some prep work to do. Now, we assembled the door. If you didn't see that, I did a video on how to assemble these doors, and I did assemble this one on that. So we've got a couple of things to do. We're going to need to put in the glass, faux glass on this side. But before that, I want to make sure that my doors are opening and closing smoothly in case I want to display the dollhouse with the door open. And it's a little tight. It's sticking just a tiny bit. And kind of use your fingers. You can tell where it's going. Because like here, I can push really gently. And this end is opening just fine. As I go up, it gets harder and harder. It's catching right here. So that needs a little more sanding. I've done some sanding, but I haven't sanded it all the way. Now, there's a downside to this, and you can probably see what it is. If we open the door this way, it's going to not be painted. And we want our door edge to be painted to match our door. So first I'm going to get this down to where it opens and closes. And it's still just a little bit tight right here. I'm going to actually put my sandpaper on the table. If you lay your sandpaper on the table and run your door over it, you're less apt to get your door sanded crooked. Now I can feel it's catching down here too, just a little bit. Pretty much we're sanding off almost all of our paint that we put on the side of the door, but that's okay. We're going to fix that in just a second. And we may have to do this sanding process 2 or 3 times. Now it opens really smoothly. It's not quite loose enough yet. I want it just a little bit loose. All right. Now I'm going to get out a wet wipe before I do the next step, because the next step is going to be kind of messy. Now we don't need to match our paint completely. I want a really thin paint, so I've got my white craft paint. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to shake this up so I get some paint up at the top. And I'm just going to dip my finger in and just wipe it over. And basically, I'm just kind of staining this surface with just the slightest amount of paint. I just want it to not be wood. I don't want bare wood on the side or the top. Now I might have to sand down and reapply this. Sometimes you have to do this a couple of times, but eventually you'll get it. Now if you'd left the wood, just the wood color, the original color, and just put a clear coat on it, you wouldn't have to do this step, the second step. You could just sand it down. But I'm going to let this dry, and when the paint's dry, I will come back and we'll see how, if it's still loosened up, or if we need to sand and paint again. Oh, the paint is dry, and there's just enough friction to hold the door shut, but it will still open. And by the way, if you don't have enough friction to hold it shut, it will come open. I had a dollhouse that did that all the time. The door would not stay. So now we're going to install the glass in our door. So be sure, one of the things to keep in mind is these have a protective plastic on both sides. And you want to make sure you get that off. Try and hold it mainly from the edges so I don't get fingerprints underneath. And then I'm going to test fit it. It's going to fit. Should fit since it's well, that's interesting. It does not fit. So think it'll sand. We will find out. I've never had one not fit before. That's okay, I'm going to turn the camera off and get this figured out, and then I'll be back. All right, that just took a little bit of sanding on all the edges, especially paying attention to the corners to get that in. But now, you can see, I don't know how much the camera's picking up, but it fits in there really snugly. But we do need to glue it. And I looked on the instructions, and because most times when I've gotten a door before that had glass, the glass panel, it had a slot in the top and you slid the glass in. This one you actually glue it here, and the instructions say to use just a dot of super glue in each corner. So we will see how that works. As an alternative, you can also use silicone. But I have super glue. I don't have any silicone. Now let's see if I can get it snapped back in there. There we go. And now that will need to dry. I think I am going to go get some clamps and clamp this down just to make sure that it is staying in contact with the glue. And when this super glue is set up enough, I feel it won't fall out, we will install the door into the front of the dollhouse. All right, our glue is dry on our door, so we're going to dry fit it in. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. And it fits in perfectly. So I am going to turn the camera off while I put some glue around these edges, and when that's on, I'll be back and we'll install the door. All right, I've got glue just on this surface there. Push this in, and this fits in tight enough that I don't think I even need to. Well, should I tape it? I should probably tape it. Yeah, yeah, I don't think I need to. I think it's going to stay just fine. It's staying in contact. If I find it is scooting back out of its spot, I will tape it. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it because I think the less I disturb it, the better. When this glue is set up, then we'll turn the house around and we'll put the interior trim on and then move on to the windows. All right, I'm really hoping I have figured out a spot where you guys can sit and I can still work. So now we need to put the inside trim on this front door. The first step is to dry fit to make sure it's going to fit. Does this ask yourself, does this line up with the top of the door? And I actually taped it in place earlier to make sure that the top piece was going to fit. And I did have to do just a tiny bit of trimming on the ends just to make sure they were going to fit. And I've got some masking tape up here ready to go so that when I get this get these in place, I can tape them so they won't slide around, because I want them to stay where I put them. You can use tacky glue or wood glue. If you're using wood glue, you need to be really careful that it doesn't ooze out at all, because you don't want that yellow splotch. Ooh, okay. Now, I want it lined up with the edge of the door. And again, this is going to be a lot easier on your dollhouse because you're not trying to work around a camera. That adds a little bit of extra something to the putting everything into a dollhouse. That's why I'm not showing you the bathroom construction for the most part, because it's just too tight. And when I taped this in earlier, I made sure that the door could open, but I want to make sure that it is actually taped to the door to keep it flat now. And there will be a picture, or at least one picture on the blog post of the door in place with the tape in place. So you can kind of see what it looks like a little closer probably than you can in the video. I'm hoping I'm not completely covering what I'm doing with my arms trying to get reached in there. All right, now this last piece needs to go in. Oops, come on. There you go. You might have to fiddle with this to make sure that your edges meet, that your corners meet up nicely. There we go. And yeah, it's not going to be a perfect miter, but that's okay. If it's too far off, I can always use a little bit of wood filler, a little bit of, the spackle, and get it filled, and then just paint over that. And this is a low tack tape, so it won't pull the wallpaper. So now that glue needs to dry. When that's dry, we can pull that tape off, but in the meantime, we're going to go around to the front of the dollhouse and start putting the windows in. All right, now hopefully the light coming in the window isn't interfering with the video too much. It's really the only place I've got to work. So this is our window that goes up here, and it fits really nicely. So once again, I'm going to put glue along this area of the window. And I already have 4 pieces of masking tape. I'm not sure if I've got those in camera or not, but I need to. You want to have everything ready before you get up there with the glue and the window. I'm trying to put a nice amount of glue here, but not so much that it wants to ooze out all over everything. I don't want a mess of glue scooching out. I just want just enough that I can get this to stay. So the glue is on. Now I'm going to put it in, wipe the glue off my fingers. Oops. Stand still, dollhouse. And I'm going to repeat the same process off camera with the bottom floor window. And when this glue is dry, so that I don't take a chance on knocking the window out, we'll go to the inside and we'll put the plexiglass glass into it, and we'll put the inside trim on. All right, so the first thing we need to do is make sure we get the plastic sheet, the protective film, off of our window pieces. I've already put a few drops, I'm going to put a few more. I'm using the super glue gel to hold this window in place. This should give it a good hold. It will show a little bit, but it's not showing too badly down on the door. So I feel comfortable doing that here. Line that up. Get it in touch with all that super glue, and then use some tape to hold this. So off camera, I'm going to do the exact same steps on the bottom because it's going to be really hard to show you that one. And when this glue is dry, I'll come back and we will install the interior trim. All right, once again, I'm really hoping the lighting is better on the video than it looks in the viewfinder. So I've taken the tape off, that glue has set up, and now we can put the glue on the back of the window frame, the window trim frame, and put this in place. Once again, we are going to be taping it in place. I don't think I'm going to get quite as far as I had planned when I started this video, because unfortunately this week they decided to do a bunch of construction right outside my window, and I've had very, very limited periods of time where there was not so much construction noise I couldn't hear myself think, let alone do a video. I don't know what they're doing, but it's very noisy. All right, now, this one you do need to kind of really be careful to line up because you want to cover all that all the frame that's existing on the window. And I'm putting this against my skin just to make sure that it is not overly sticky. I don't want to pull any wallpaper. There we go. All right, now this will just need to sit and dry enough for that glue to dry, and then we'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom floor window off camera, and then we're going to put the trim in this room around the baseboard, and that's all we're going to get done today. So I'll be back as soon as this glue is dry enough to go on. All right, so that glue should be dry enough that I can hopefully carefully take this tape all off, and then we'll put the trim, the baseboard trim, in this room, and then that's going to finish us up for this week because I need to get this video edited. Hold on just a minute and I'll get ready to put that trim in. All right, so I've cut 3 pieces of trim. I'm hoping we can kind of see without that light on. I've got a piece for back here. Measure really carefully that you get everything cut the way you want it. Got one for there, I've got one for this wall, and I'm just going to go straight across the stair opening, and then I've got a piece for here. Goes up. I've already installed this door off camera because you can't really see in the bathroom. It goes in just like the other door did, and then I've got a little tiny piece for right there. So I like to start in the back. And you could cut mitered corners if you want to. It's not really necessary, but you could if you want. The wood is kind of thin on these baseboard trims for the dollhouse, so it's really hard to cut a miter and have it look right. But if you're going to err on cutting this just a skosh too long rather than a skosh too short. Get that lined up because I managed to get glue on the floor. Get it pushed all the way back in the corner. And then I'm just going to run a bead of glue on this one. Make sure that you are putting these right side up. I have a friend that one time put her baseboard molding, half of it in upside down, because this does have a definite top and bottom. But she had not paid attention. I think she was doing hers when she got home from work one day, and that was not good. So you can see there is a definite bottom edge and a top edge. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to get glue on this last piece. I think I will probably, I don't think I need to tape this. I think it is in here firm enough, tight enough that it will stay. I'll be watching it. Like I think right here on this edge, you can't really see on the camera, but where the end meets the back wall, back opening, I might need to clamp. Make sure that you were down against the floor. And I'm going to go ahead and put the rest in. I'll get some pictures and then I'll come back and talk to you. All right, so we have our floor baseboard trim in. We've got our windows installed. I'm not going to start, and there you can see that dark spot on my wallpaper. Still not sure what caused that. I have not had that happen before, but it did this time. Anyway, that is all we're going to get done today. I will have photos on the blog post. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned something. If you did, leave a like. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to see you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload. Be sure and check the blog post and find us over on the Facebook page, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.